In the mid-1990s, late-night radio didn't just tell stories. Sometimes it collected them. And one of the strangest voices to ever call Art Bell's Coast to Coast AM belonged to a young man from Missouri who said he'd done the unthinkable in his own backyard. His name, on air, was Madman Marcum. Mike claimed he'd been experimenting with a high-voltage setup, often described as a Jacob's Ladder-style device, and that during a test, something happened that didn't feel like electricity anymore. It felt like a vortex, a wrongness in the air, a moment where the world didn't behave the way it's supposed to. He told Art Bell he started throwing small objects into that window, and that some of them didn't land the way they should, as if they'd vanished and reappeared elsewhere, or returned at the wrong moment. Now, pause on the human reality of that, because if you're a young man with technical ability, limited money, and a big idea, obsession can feel like purpose, and purpose can make you reckless. Mike admitted on air that to scale his device up, he stole power transformers from a local utility facility, and that during testing, it caused a local blackout, bringing law enforcement attention down on him fast. Police records referenced in later reporting and summaries confirm he was arrested and served a short jail sentence. After that, Mike called in again. This time he insisted he'd learned his lesson and that he was rebuilding using legally acquired parts, and he claimed he was close. Close enough that he said he was preparing to test the machine more seriously, even hinting he might step into it himself. Then the story takes a turn that made it legend. Mike reportedly vanished from the public narrative. No more calls, no more follow-ups, just silence. And in the vacuum, the myth grew teeth. People began to say he disappeared because it worked, that he'd slipped out of our timeline, that he'd become the cautionary tale of a man who opened a door and couldn't close it. Here's what can be said cleanly. Mike's call to Art Bell are real and still circulated. His arrest tied to stolen transformers is treated as a confirmed part of the story in multiple later summaries. But the time machine itself, the vortex, the object test, the claims of success, sits in a different category because it's built from personal testimony and it was never independently demonstrated in a way that closes the case. And that's why this story lasts, because even if you set time travel aside, what remains is a very human portrait, a bright, restless tinkerer, a dangerous experiment, a brush with consequences, and a voice on the radio that sounded like it needed the world to believe him. Years later, the legend gained a second act. In 2015, Art Bell interviewed Marcum again on Midnight in the Desert, and Marcum claimed something startling, that he had, in a sense, lost time, ending up years displaced and far from home, with memory problems and a long road back to normal life. At the same time, reporting noted there was no clear record of him being filed as an official missing person in Missouri authorities, which only adds another layer of uncertainty to what disappeared actually means in this story. So what happened to Mike Marcum? A hoax that spiraled into folklore? A true believer caught in his own obsession? Or a story with one missing piece, the kind that keeps people listening long after the signal fades? There is no evidence strong enough to confirm these experiences, and no explanation complete enough to put them to rest. If a man tells you he built a time machine, and then the story goes quiet, do you file it as fantasy, or as a question that refuses to die?